One of the things that I did do whenever I got out of university was that I tied myself to a young fella who has a third grade education, who worked for the penitentiary, and he was one of my garden supervisors. Because he had 30 years of experience. I had an education, I had a degree, but the object was that I wish that I could have been vaccinated with what he had, but it's not possible. So what we'll do is I'll give you a little inoculum tonight, and we can go from there, and then you can ask Donna, you can ask Jim, you do whatever. But here's the thing. If I can figure this machine out, we'll be in good shape. You've got a little program, you can follow this little program later. But there's decisions to be made. There's plot selection that's got to happen. And I'm sure you've already got your plot. Anybody got a pot-only garden? Pots? Hey, good. We don't have to talk about containers. But the object is, you want to know about containers, okay. Well, the object is that we will touch on some of that. But you can take on container gardening is nothing but a shrinking down of all this field coming down to here. We now are like the Buddha, who now got so big, you know what he does is that he now studies his neighbor. So, but it is one of those things. We want to know where to grow. We also why that spot versus another spot. We want to know the size. Everybody got gardens that you're not raising enough produce in? See, not a hand in here. You've got gardens that you're raising too much produce. You've always got it out there. But it's always the zucchini that overwhelms you. Yeah. It's called cut back. Don't plant as many seeds. You won't need as many zucchini. They won't take over the garage and the attic and everything else. But you want to know whether you want to put out 2 pots, and you want to put out a 10 by 16 area, or a half acre, or what it is you want. A 10 by 16 area is enough to feed 4 people all summer long, with a little extra can. If you'll take the time and stagger your planning going there. Now, what to grow? Main thing is, do I like it? If you're planting it for looking sake, that's fine. It's a flower. But if you want something out there, these little ornamental peppers, you've seen those? You've seen them in some places? The object is that why not just plant some jalapenos? Yeah. Or some other pepper out there that's something that you can eat instead of those silly little things that you're going to look at. They say, oh, I like the looks of those. That's good. Taking up pot space, taking up water. Someday we may want that water to drink. Now your philosophy. Is it organic? Is it all natural? Is it conventional? Have any organic gardeners? Anybody wanting to be? Okay. Well, the difference between conventional and organic is somewhere between others natural. Okay. Are you certified? Anybody certified organic? Yep. You'll see some certified organic fields. Let's talk about soil preparation. Everybody owns a tiller, right? If you don't, you know, then as mature as we are, then there's always that argument if you want to use a front tine tiller or a back tine tiller. That's a different conversation. But you want to deal either by hand or with power, by hand, or with an oxen, or with the kids. How many can get their kids now? And that looks like some of you got grandkids. Can get the grandkids out there to work and do that. It's called incentivize. The incentivize is that I will make your favorite pie, or I will cook your favorite dish if you will help grandma, go out here and we'll do this. My grandson always wants to come over and go to my garden, and he wants to go get some food. That's what he talks about. I need to go out there, even though it's muddy water to whatever. I want to go get some food. That's the way he thinks about it. So it's one of those deals. Plant nutrients, fertilizers, where you use the humic acid, where you use microbial inoculants, where you use standard commercial fertilizer, where you use compost, these type of things. Weed control. That could either be a hoe, that could be mulch, either plastic or natural. There's ways about doing that. We can use old hay, alfalfa, pine bark. If you are living, let's see, Jim, you were telling me that North of town's heavy, south of town's light.
Basically.
All right, south of town, you probably got an acid soil. North of town, you're somewhere between that acid going toward alkaline. Well, the pine bark mulch would work good up north. But you're going to just acidify that soil more if you put it down south because it comes from the pine. There's a certain amount of terpenes that's in there that what they're going to do is going to help acidify that soil. Planting. We're going to look a little bit about the seed depth, and there's also the spacing. Yeah. Part of this is in the handouts that I gave you. Part of this is from the standpoint that it will spell out in there and for how deep it is. It looks like you read that. We won't have time to cover everything tonight. Transplant. Every one of you transplanted at one time or the other either a flower or tomatoes. And how many of you dig a hole this deep for your tomatoes? Now you've heard that. If the tomato is leggy, just dig the hole deeper, right? Dig it longer. Dig it the same depth. Dig it longer. Take that leggy plant. And if it got leggy on you, then just let that little sun gun come across here, and then cut it all up. It'll root all along that stem. But if you put it down too deep, then you're beyond the oxygen zone. And so therefore it takes a lot longer for that plant to take off. Controlling the space as far as where you're going to stake or where you're going to prune. Any of you ever prune your tomatoes? Do you ever prune your okra? I'm talking about prune the okra. Not gather, prune. I've got a man that's down in Rosebud that has got some of the prettiest okra plants you've ever seen this past year. Sorry we don't have the picture in here, but anyway, what it is that they're out there, and I mean he's got okra plants that are this big around, and just okra coming everywhere. And it's because what he did is that he goes out and he cuts off the top of that okra as it goes, and when he's out there and then when he first starts gathering it, then he'll trim it again. And first thing you know, you got buds out here, and then you got buds out there, and first thing you know, you got this many different bud pods. If you just let that okra grow, you're going to have one here at this leaf, one at this one. Finally, it gets so tall up there, and you can't even get out with the ladder to get it. But what he does is that his is always within angle of getting it. You ever taste a sweet okra? You can make it sweet, and that's one of the things we'll talk about. Walk clearance. Now, if we had stickers on all of our plants, that'd be the best thing in the world happen. Then we'd give them space. As it is, what we do is we get out there and we plant them too close together. If you plant thickly, you're going to gather thinly. Make sense? If you plant too thick, then what's going to happen is you're not going to get the production. Well, we're going to touch on moisture regulation, and we'll have all this in the pictures as we go through this. But moisture regulation, whether you be rain-fed or whether you be irrigated, therefore you're going to regulate with mulch. Shade is a big factor. Shade is a big factor as far as moisture retention and also weed control. Serves a double purpose. You say, well, shade, what are you talking about? I plant out close to my tree, and when I get out there close to that tree, those are the smallest little plants they ever have. They get the shade. No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about as far as shade is where this plant and its leaves now are overlapping, and they now are filling up the area. If they're covering up this area out here, and finally, cotton farmers in West Texas, where I worked for over 20 years, cotton farmers are realizing that you can plant a little closer together. See, everything before, we had 40-inch rows. Anybody plant all their vegetables in 40-inch rows? The reason that you got 40-inch rows out there is because that's what it took for mule to walk in. And what they did then, when they built the tractors and all the plows, voila, the mule has to walk down through here, so therefore let's build the tractor the same way. It's not required. And it's taken us generations to change all this over time. Now we're down to where they're planting plants out as close as, not on cotton plants, but on plants that we've got as far as the wheat, rye, barley, these type, we're out there in 10-inch rows.